Hello. Welcome to the 1240 session. My name is Nikki Gio. I'm with the City of Vancouver, Washington. I'm your moderator for today. The session is called Implementing a Surface Water Infrastructure Inspection and Asset Management Program. It's going to be presented by Theresa Thurlow from the City of Federal Way. Just want to remind you that the session is being recorded. The Q&A session will not be recorded. We'll have a 20-minute presentation with a 15-minute Q&A following. We ask that you please turn off your phone or put it on vibrate. So Theresa is the Surface Water Manager for the City of Federal Way. She has over 20 years of experience in public works and environmental management. She's been working in recent years growing the City of Federal Way's Stormwater Asset Management Program to streamline the CCTV of the city's drainage infrastructure, incorporate risk management for prioritization of pipe repairs and maintenance scheduling, and integrate mobile technology into infrastructure inspections. Please welcome Theresa.
Thank you and welcome. I know everybody has a really busy schedule and there's a little traffic jam out there, so I was a bit late. So as mentioned, I'm Theresa Thurlow. So I've been working in public works for most of my adult life and in Federal Way for the last 5 years. And they say to start with a joke. So although this is not really well seen, I thought it was one of the few funny things I could find about plumbing, pipes, and infrastructure. So it says, these older homes are tricky. You never know what kind of pipes you'll find, so which I think we all know to be so very true. So originally this abstract was submitted by John with the City of SeaTac, and he was unable to continue with this, and so they asked me to step in. His presentation, his abstract, was a little more technical and mechanical. Mine is going to include some of those elements, but also I'm going to talk about some of the challenges that are faced and things that you want to think about before you implement your program. And also the combination of SeaTac and City of Federal Way, I'll try and give credit where credit's due for John's original slides for this presentation. So one of the first things, talk about why infrastructure and asset management, why inspections and asset management. I think everyone here knows that our underground systems are a mix of old and new. There are other factors that are impacting our programs. One of them is personnel turnover. So I don't know about a lot of you, but I have people who are in the program for 20 years and it's all in their head, literally. So we're trying to get this program on paper, actually electronically, and get it into the system so that when he leaves, that little pipe that nobody knows about is actually in the system. So also the utility ratepayers, they expect a level of service. So you're charging them money and they want their stormwater to work or their wastewater or whatever system that you have. And then of course we have the regulatory requirements, which are always fun. And then of course, if you're like me, you really don't like surprises. So if you're like City of Federal Way, you have a lot of tree canopy and there's roots under every single one of those beautiful old growth trees. And they're just really in those pipes. And then of course, we have the lovely sinkholes that show up and open up right underneath you as you're trying to inspect the manhole. And then of course, PSE and all these other utilities just love to put their pipes through yours. And then of course, there's the really lovely surprises that you get in an early morning call, and there's a landslide because you had separation of your pipe at the top of the hill. And this actually happened before I got to Federal Way, but I really liked the car, so I wanted to include it. So when you're, like to get a show of hands, so how many of you have actually implemented an infrastructure and asset management program? So, okay, a little under half. Okay, so if I think most of you are probably a little bit beyond sending your guy through the into the field and as seen in the first one. And then some of us have gotten down to the camera systems and implementing those, but even then it's still a growing process. So I wanted to talk about, I'm sorry about the slide, I didn't realize I was throwing those too far up on the projector. So at the top it says setting up the system. So before you set up your system, I cannot emphasize how much you really want to answer these questions before you get into putting out $300,000 for a system, or even if you're just into the phase where you're buying your push cams and your pole cams. You really want to ask yourself these questions because, believe me, on the back end, it matters. So some of the things you want to go out and ask yourself, are you looking to meet the minimum requirements? Are you looking to actually get pipe projects out of this? Are you looking to classify your inventory? What are your resources? Do you have the people for this? Takes more people than you think. And do you have the budget? Are you going to do it piecemeal? Can you get your push cams and your pole cams first and then get your track cams? Can you get your software off the shelf, or do you need IT to do it? How are you going to train your people? So you will constantly have people coming in and people going out. So what kind of system are you going to have for those people that come in and they're like, huh? So make sure and think about those kinds of things. Data management, really can't stress that one enough, because you really want to get usable, actionable data. Okay, so if you're just gathering a lot of information, but you don't have anybody on the back end to apply it, you've just wasted time and money. So these are some of the things you want to think about. Remember that your system is going to change. So City of Federal Way put their system in 2011 when they started the program. And we are getting to the point that we're going mobile now. And we didn't actually think about that in the beginning. I don't know if 2011 tablets were around, I think. Yeah. Anyway, so now we're going mobile and integrating our mobile technology into our current software and IT assets is a bit harder than I expected. And then I've also started looking into drones and taking a look at our infrastructure through there. And then the City of Tacoma actually, anybody from City of Tacoma? Okay, well, the City of Tacoma, they actually have these floating cameras that they put on these little barges to put through some of their system. It's kind of interesting. So, you want to think about what is your terrain? Do you have a lot of pipes? Do you have a lot of infrastructure? Think about that ahead of time. And you're constantly going to be looking at improving the system. And I tell you, it's all connected. So, your field work, you need to collect the data. It needs to be usable, retrievable, and actionable. Your data, once you get it back, how's it going to be? Is it going to be a spreadsheet? Is it going to be software that already does things for you? Lovely to have. Is your GIS up to date? Because we actually had a lot of problems because we didn't have GIS 10. So a lot of the elements and things that our software could do for our maintenance management software were unusable to us because we didn't have GIS 10. For 3 years, we were paying for software we couldn't fully use because of that. So, these are the kind of things you want to take a look at ahead of time. Let's see. Remember, oh boy, I cannot stress this one. So I'm a division manager, and I really think about money a lot. And remember, what you find, you have to fix. And you're going to need a budget for that. So when you're implementing your program and your public works director says, I want you to inventory the whole system in 1 year, you might want to push back on that because all of those pipes that you found that need to be fixed, they need to be fixed fairly quickly. So yeah, that's one thing that a lessons learned for us, I really have to say. And then we're regulatory requirements. So is your system, is it going to be reportable? So the information that you're gathering, we're looking at integrating all of our system so that we can get it easier to report our infrastructure inspections from the regulatory standpoint. So you really need to think about the purpose. Also, City of Tacoma, Kitsap County, I think Pierce County, not 100%, but they actually also have sanitary sewer. So they actually use the same software. They use the same camera, back-end IT and all of that. So are you going to have more than stormwater in your system? Have you done your mapping? So are you going to use this for your mapping in advance of your assets? I think most everybody in this room probably has done their mapping. But if you're like us, I consider our mapping to be 80% because we continually go out and we're like, that pipe's supposed to be across the street. So those are the kind of things. Are you going to use your condition assessment to fix your pipes? So you really need to think about this because your cameras need the resolution to see what the heck is wrong with that pipe to the point that the engineer can actually write a spec for doing the repair. Of course, I've a couple of times mentioned the regulatory requirements. So the field folks aren't as concerned about this, but when I'm trying to pay for things and I have to get them fixed within a certain period of time, I'm really thinking about that. And then, oh yeah, money. I'm really focused on money. So what are you looking for when you're going out there? You know, you're not just looking for how the system, what its condition is, you're looking for other factors if you have a whole system. So think about, are you going to look at it, is it a functioning system, or are you going to look for infiltration and inflow? I reverse that, always do. Are you going to look to see if you have a functioning system? Condition, sometimes a little bit. And then this was supposed to be functioning system. So how many of you have like 10 basketballs and 7 soccer balls on your inventory every year when you're taking a look at your pipes? And how many of them like actually do it on purpose? I swear they do. So you know, what are you looking for and how are you going to store that data? So these are the questions really you want to ask before you buy your equipment and your software and all of that. If you're like us, you're going to try and incorporate your illicit discharge. This is actually outside of a restaurant, not in Federal Way. This is a SeaTac picture, although I have to say we've found this in Federal Way. But if are you looking for fats, oils, grease? Are you looking for your illicit discharges? We're trying to incorporate our illicit discharge program into our maintenance management software, and of course our inspectors who go out with their cameras are, they're doing this work for us to track it down. So what are you going to use it for? Some of you may be in here and you may be going to your boss. Oh, I got to go pick it up. You may be going to your boss and saying, hey, how much is this going to cost? And you're going to tell them, well, if we do the whole tamale, it's going to be about $300,000. And that's your software, your equipment, and I highly, highly, highly recommend professional services. This gives you a little bit of an example. But the other thing that you can't see at the bottom is budget for continued services. We spend $1,800 per year on maintenance costs and of our cameras and our software and other equipment. So storage. Video cannot be compressed. So you're going to need a heck of a lot of storage. So think about those items. This is just a little bit of inventory of some of the equipment that you're going to be buying. And one of the lessons learned for us is that it continually needs repair. And we updated to wireless on a lot of our technology because of that. Don't forget safety. Don't forget you need your, your traffic control, your trips, your trailers. We have a trailer. We're going to change to a truck. When you're working on your system, think about where are you going to park it? Are you in a hilly area? Do you have a lot of flat area? Are you in Puyallup so you don't have these kind of challenges where it's fairly flat? The next slide, I actually have a handout because this is kind of hard to see, but it's a workflow process. So how are you going to do this? How is the information going to be triggered, the need? How are you going to get it all the way to the end? So For us, we actually, this is a quick look at how many personnel that we need for our system. And this is including contracted services. So we are contracting a lot of our services out right now at 74 cents per linear foot. But if I go to $1 per linear foot, I've only got the back end for the assessment. I still have all this other for the maintenance and the emergency response. So, you know, that's another thing to think about too. If you contract it out, there's a lot to think about on that one. SeaTac, they're supposed to be through their system by 2020. We do have a bigger system, but we have a different model, so ours is 51%. This is what the City of Federal Way looks like. We have queues granted, and this is the information that you collect. The lesson learned on that is work with IT, work with IT, work with IT. This is City of SeaTac. As you can see, theirs is a little more robust. They went with IT pipes and CityWorks. So, you know, when you're looking at the software out there, make them work for it. Go talk to other jurisdictions. And when you're sending out your RFQ, your RFI, RFP, make them work for it. Make them show you what they're going to do for you. This also has a handout on the table. This is the backbone from the IT folks. This is what kind of back end you're going to need on a full system of software. I was going to play this real quick, but it was running out of time. So we're still in some of our paper action, as you can see from there. So this is just a long list of considerations. I want to speak real quick to risk management. Okay, stick with the plan. If you have a pipe that breaks and you don't know about it, your liability is not so bad. But if you have a pipe that breaks that was supposed to be inspected 2 years ago under your plan, you've got some liability. So make sure your plan is realistic and make sure to stick with it because you have some liability if you don't. The other thing is you end up getting behind her instead of a header. Some other considerations. I love this photo. So if I had a drone, John wouldn't be out there on this tiny little bridge to that structure. So also bidirectional interface. Until this year, our maintenance management software didn't talk with our queues with Granite, which is our field software for our camera systems. So we had to do things manually. Now we're getting bidirectional interface with an upgrade of our system, $2,400. So, you know, plan, learn long term. This needs people. You got traffic control. You got the camera. So you got one person in the trailer. You got one person actually making sure that you got the right tires on your camera so it doesn't get stuck. You know, so some of that and succession training, succession planning. Like I said, everything's in my maintenance supervisor's head. I got to get that information out of his head before he retires. So this actually said, damn it, I said stop. How many of you have been in that situation where you're like, huh? But anyway, just remember your safety. That's one thing I think when we were planning, we thought for minimum traffic control, but when we have a full intersection inspection, we've got to have full-on traffic control and a cop and all these kind of things. So it gets expensive, and you have to think about those things. You definitely don't want to get ran over. So my information's on the bottom here. If there are no questions, or if there are questions I cannot answer, because I'm not a tech person, I'm a manager, please bring the card up, and with your question, I'll make sure to get an answer back to you. So, sorry that was a little rushed, but that's it. Okay.